Sandy Diana here. I am going to do a video today on comparing the Peggy Stitch Eraser to the Power Pro Wahl that was $33 from Amazon against the Galaxy electric seam ripper that requires batteries. This was also from Amazon for $19.99. And then I purchased the Peggy Stitch Eraser is also available on Amazon for, I believe, $79.99. So this is the one that I have had, and I have used it for several years, and I swear by it. However, I've seen lately where other products can be used as well. I heard somebody shared that they use an electric razor for hair, and they use the same thing. So I'm like, I'm going to try that out. I want to see which one is the best. And I know I already have this one, but I'm like, I would like to see which is the best for our money. And this one I saw the other day on a Discord group saying how great this one was. So I thought, let me just compare these and see which one versus the other works best and which one is the best for your money. So I haven't even unboxed these. This one I'm going to go ahead and open, and it requires batteries. So I need to put the batteries in it, and hopefully it doesn't require a little screwdriver to open it. There you go. It's cute. No, it doesn't require a screwdriver to open it. Good, because I would have had to go find one. But this is what it looks like. And here's the box for you to close up. And I will link these in the, for where you can purchase them. I link the items in my description below. This looks like it's a little shield of some sort. I guess I should read the directions too, because I would think that this needs to come off. And it's a slide thing, but I can't slide it. So let me read up on the little directions to see what it says. And there are no directions. So, however, I know when the picture of it doesn't show this blade guard on it. So I've got to figure out a way to slide that blade guard off. I think you have to lift up on it and then push. This is not an easy task. But I know it doesn't stay on. So if you have issues with your fingers, you might have to work at this. Oh, there we go. Push it the opposite direction. There, it's off. Thank goodness. I was like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. So my hands don't work very well, and it's in there tight, that's for sure. Maybe somebody else with stronger hands. I know I'm already right here not liking the fact that it needs batteries because I can't get it off. There, whew, that was rough. All right, so put the battery in the correct direction or it won't work. Put the back on. All right, it clipped back in place, and then it has a sweet little on and off button. Okay, so we're back. Okay, so I left off where I was gonna push the button, and it does come on, it does work. Okay, we'll leave it at that for right now. That's that one. Whoops, let me pull it back there so you can see it. That's the Galaxy Stitch seam ripper. Is what it's called, a seam ripper. It's not actually called a stitch remover. So I just want you to be aware of that right up front. And neither is this one. This one is intended to trim hair. But I saw someone say that they had used this a shaver to remove the stitches. This one is Wahl. I didn't buy the peanut one to compare the Wahl peanut versus these Peggy Stitch Eraser, mostly because they're pretty comparable in price. I think maybe the Peggy Stitch Eraser is $10 more than the peanut. So I'm trying to find you an option that you can choose that's less money. This was only $33.95 from Amazon. Of course, you don't need all of these attachments unless you plan to go cut somebody's hair. It comes with a nice little carrying case that you can put it in. And most importantly, it has an electric cord. This is the reason why it intrigued me the most, is because it has 3 blade heads. I'm gonna pop them out of here. As y'all can see, my hands, certain things I just cannot do with them anymore, but I'm gonna keep on doing until I can't do anymore. I have Sjogren's syndrome, which has caused me to have osteoarthritis, which is bone arthritis. So I'm going to keep on going as long as I possibly can. But check out this little bitty head. Let's see if you can see it better with my hand behind it. And then I have this wide head right here. And I have this little bitty head. And if you've ever used one of these stitch erasers, if you've ever used this Peggy Stitch Eraser, you will understand why I liked this. Because in close corners where you're really, let's say you don't want to remove all of your stitching and you nick it with the blade because it's so wide, this right here will be helpful. So that's why I was intrigued by this one. This head is probably a little smaller than the Peggy Stitch Eraser, but it's nowhere near as big as that one right there. So these are the 3 different heads that it has, and it comes with this one on, and of course I'm gonna have to use a screwdriver to get it off. Anyway, we'll figure that one out in just a second. I'm gonna go ahead and undo my cord here. I'm not gonna need any of those parts because those are all for hair trimming, so that you can do all of those fancy hair cutting things. And I'm not gonna be doing any of that with the trimmer. I'm just hoping it's going to work. Plug it in. Okay, we're all plugged in. And it also has an on-off button. Okay, so let's see. Here's the challenge. We're going between the Galaxy Seam Ripper compared to versus the Wahl Clipper and Trimmer versus Peggy Stitch Eraser. Now, I do know that when I first started using the Peggy Stitch Eraser, it was a challenge because I wasn't really sure what I was doing. And I had to figure out how to get the stitching to where I could maneuver the stitching. And I was new at it, so it's been a learning curve for me as well. I'm trying to get that up there to where it can stay so you can see it in my video, but it wants to slide because of the cord. So I'm gonna kind of slide this up here out of the way so that I can get to the stitching. Now I've got a couple different samples of stitching to remove. This is a monogram that I just stitched this out on some Ultra stabilizer. It's real thick, and it was something that I actually digitized myself from a font that I had on my computer, and I changed it into a digital file, and I wanted to stitch it out before I actually put it on my shirt. I think it turned out pretty good, but I'm going to erase it just because I want to show you how easy. Now, when I put mine underneath there, I have a running stitch and I have a zigzag stitch, and then I have the satin stitch on it. Now, I know that sometimes they're really, really super tight. This one is not a really super tight one, but what I did do is I have some other things that I've stitched out. This was another practice stitch. This one is a much tighter stitching on this one, but it also has a knockdown stitch on it. So I'm gonna check to see if the knockdown. The Peggy Stitch Eraser does remove the knockdown stitch, but I will show you that. And then I have some other little bitty ones. This one is on tearaway stabilizer. I will tell you this, from my experience, the best way to remove stitches with one of these electric apparatuses, whichever one you end up using, it's a challenge to remove the stitches if you didn't use stabilizer of some kind. And if you use tearaway stabilizer, it's even more, it is challenging because that will start wearing away. The stabilizer, the best stabilizer is the cutaway. If you have messed up and you need to remove stitches and you've used cutaway stabilizer, then it's much easier because you have something that stabilizes. Because if you don't have something as a barrier between where you're shaving, where your material is, it is really easy to ruin an item like that. And I've ruined a few. I've ruined a few. So I'm going to go ahead and let's start with the baby one. And this one is the Galaxy. So the Galaxy Seam Ripper. So let's see if we can get some of these stitches out with it. I am like having to shove it in. It is removing it. But it is work. Now, that one's work. And I don't know if you could see that real well because it's not zoomed in, but that was a lot of work. But it did remove, and you could see how I was shoving it. Okay, let's try this one. This is the Wahl corded clipper and trimmer. I'll start at a different area, hoping you can see this well. This looks like it is fraying the fabric, the thread. I'm going to try to, don't get sick, but I'm going to try to move this in to where you can see it. So you just kind of like work at it. And I'm doing this one-handed, because I'm trying to hold the tripod, and I'm trying to hold the stabilizer at the same time. So I don't know if you can see that, but I have successfully removed all of this stitching. Now, it doesn't remove all of it because you still have your zigzag stitch and your running stitch that's underneath there. And usually I have to get those out with the seam ripper. My hand's got static clean on it. Now, this is the Peggy Stitch Eraser. And I'm going to go back and try this one more time. I want to show you this one a little bit close up. So this is your Galaxy, and I'm going to start where I left off. And I am really, really having to work to get this to move, to cut through that thread with those stitches. This is a lot of work. I'm just going to tell you, and you've already seen how weakened my hands are. That's work. Okay, so the Peggy Stitch Eraser is next. It's as loud as the other one. I want to try to get this as a clear path to where you can see what I'm doing. And you can see I barely put it on here. And it's gone. It's gone. And I bet it can go back and it can clean up where they left off. So, if I were to compare one over the other, if I were to say one or the other, they all three work. One works better than the other. So, I guess the old adage that I've always heard is that you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for. And this one, sometimes I'm going to have to work with this one too. you get what you pay for. And I might have spent a lot more money for this one, but this one will work. And this one will work also, but for $19.95 versus $33.95, I'm going to tell you, and then you have the three additional attachments that you get for $33.95. We're talking $14 more dollars, and you have 3 different heads to use. I would say this one before you spend the money for this one. This was a lot of work. This one, not as easy as my Peggy Stitch Eraser, but had I watched a video like this, I've had this one for a long time, by the way. I've had this ever since I started embroidering with my embroidery machine because I kept messing up. And like I said, I've become an expert at removing stitches because I've messed up. And it's expensive to throw away things when you keep messing up. So this overall, for the amount of things I haven't had to throw away, this has paid for itself. So for $79 that I purchased it for 4 or 5 years ago, and it has worked well. I have ruined some things with it because works too well sometimes. Had I known that this would work just as well, I might have purchased this because it's half the price. It's less than half the price of this. So that it just is depending what you can afford. But this one is the better of all 3, but this one here does work. The Wahl corded clipper and trimmer. Now, I'm going to just do one more test because this is stitching that I did not digitize. And I want to see how well, because they've got some additional underlaying stitches that I don't have on mine. And it also has this knockdown stitching. I want to see how well this goes through that knockdown stitching. Well, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'm not having any luck getting this one. Oh, there we go. Sometimes it does depend on the angle that you get it to go in, but you can see that I'm really working at this one. I haven't made any headway as of yet to get any of the stitching erased. It seems to do okay on the satin stitching, but I'm not really having any effect on the other stitching. Now, let me clean this out of the way. Let me do this one, and we'll see what effect this one has on it. Well, it's a struggle. I'm just going to tell you, this one makes my hand hurt. Maybe it'll be okay on like getting a seam out, which is what it's intended to. It's for quilters, for seam ripping, but it's not really budging. Now let's show the Peggy Stitch Eraser. Zoom in on there because I really want you to see that. You saw what the other two didn't do. Now you can see what the Peggy Stitch Eraser does do. And you just kind of press down against your stabilizer. It's not a fast process on anything that you use. But this one definitely, hands down, works stronger than the other 3. So, but like I said, if you don't have a lot of money and you don't have the $80 to spend on the Peggy Stitch Eraser, at the time, I didn't know anything about the other ones, But if you have the $80 that you want to spend on it, it does work, and it works really well. This one, if you don't have the $80 and you want to have a place to start, this one does work. Not as well, but it does work. This one, it works also, but this one is so small and I have to hold it and grip it so much that my hand starts cramping up trying to put the pressure on it to take away the stitches on it. So you make the decision. $19.99 works some of the time. $33.95 works most of the time, or let's say a little bit more than some of the time. This one works most of the time. I've rarely found a stitch that I can't get out with this one. So thanks. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful and useful, could you like my video? And if you would like to subscribe to my channel, and then you can stay tuned for additional videos, that would be great, because I like to do how-to videos. I like to compare things that I don't know. And like I said, this would have been very useful. And at the time that I bought this, I'm like, oh my God, I've lost my mind to spend $80 on this stitch eraser. I barely even know how to embroider. So this would have been a great option, and I wouldn't have felt so bad. And like I said, you've got 2 other heads to use to get into tight, close quarters. If you don't want to like take the whole thing out, you only take 1 letter out. Anyway, this one does work. So I would have liked to have seen this video out. And so if you, like I said, if you like my video, or if you like this video, would you hit that like button, and also consider subscribing to my videos so that you can get future videos that I might make on how to do things and how to use different things. Thanks. Bye.